Well, we'll start with the back brake pedal, start with the motor, a motor I can talk about. Yep. Oh yeah, welcome to DocWob TV. I have no idea what episode this is, so if you're counting, good for you, I ain't. This is an update on my 250 Suzuki aluminium frame, latest generation chassis, 2006 engine. We've done quite a lot of work to it in between getting ready for VMXdN and Farleigh Foxhills. So we're going to get there. I just want to show you what we've done to date, because last time I showed you this was a bare frame and bare cases. Now we've built the motor's in the frame, and we've started to do some of the more technical bits. So with these AF conversions, first job really is to get the frame, get the motor in the place, chain lines up, everything else lines up, place for the pipe. That's the biggest job, I will say. Then once you get your motor built, standard build, Hinson factory clutch cover, hard anodized, inner case, a couple of new gears, new rod, new mains, plated cylinder. We haven't had this one ported yet, because to be honest, the 06 RM motor is as good as anything. I was about at Suzuki when they changed from 2-stroke to 4-stroke, and in 05 the engineers decided they weren't going to be making 2-strokes anymore, so they put all the available technology into the 06 onwards. So that is really good. So you don't need to mess with it too much. We have got a good set of electrics for this, which does help the top end over rev, but we think the cylinder will be fine. If it's not, we can send it away, but I think we need to. So priority is getting now everything, all the ancillaries to fit around the motor. Motor's in place, motor's built, frame's fluffed and buffed. First thing, rear brake, always a bitch with these. The little tab you have for the rear brake return spring on the 4-stroke always hits the clutch cover on a 2-stroke. Clutch cover is so much bigger. So that's got to come off, which is why the pedal's not on properly. So we've used one of the factory RMZ 450 from the European factory team, which have an adjuster pushed into the end. So we'll have to machine a flat onto the pedal and get it to the right height. So for the return spring then, we use a clevis mounted return spring mounted here to make sure everything returns good. Works cast titanium foot pegs, works titanium hangers, pins. That's everything going on in this little area. This is a full factory rear brake from Tedesco's bike back in the day. Magnesium carrier, standard diameter 240 disc, factory wheel, never can see that, factory wheel, factory tag sprocket that match the colour of the rim, works Dunlop even. So we're getting there. This side we're looking good. The shocks piss me off. We've got a few work shocks, they don't fit, they hit the frame, there's no way they're going to work, so we've had to redo the standard shock. So we Cerakote the bodies to make sure that you don't get any anodized, removes any of the tolerances. So we Cerakote it, we basically just bring the shock up. Nothing wrong with the standard shock, but it's going to look a lot nicer. So there's that. Subframe's been modified for this 4-stroke silencer mount. When we do get the JSV cone pipe and silencer, we're going to be making new mounts for the silencer. But until that gets here, I've left this lug on here because we may well need to use that for the rear pipe mount. Until we get the pipe on, we're not sure. Another thing to do on these is the tank. Now obviously the standard RMZ, Z, whatever you want to call it, Z we'll call it because we're English. God bless. Is where the fuel pump sits in. Fuel pump sits in the bottom of the tank. These used to be an aluminium tank, which are easy to weld. Now they're plastic, so you've got this great big hole in the bottom, which takes an O-ring. Now, if you put a plate on there that's not sturdy enough, the plate's going to warp, it's going to leak, you're going to get wet feet. No. And our hot pipe and all that, none of us want that in our life. So we've made, I showed you in the last episode, a nice thick-ish 8mm alley plate that will hold the O-ring in place. And then we've welded another little piece on for the tap. We've then used a are drilled safety wired bolts, because back in my days when I was working on rally cars, fuel lines, oil lines, brake lines get safety wired. So this is a fuel line, so it gets safety wired. And aircraft guys, you always have to safety wire bolts so they're being pulled tighter, not being pulled looser. So there's no way it can come loose. So this is what it looks like now. Just what it is. It's as pretty as you're going to make it. You can't really see it, so hence me showing you it. Engineers over here. Where's my coffee anyway?
I thought you already come in.
No. So the front end on this AF is going to be the trickiest thing if we can pull it off. Now, we've got 23mm offset works clamps with the radiuses. Believe it or not, those radiuses make a difference. Who knew? We've even got some works handlebars, lightened underneath, titanium bolts, billet clamps, works front brake system. Now this is a 2730, it's called, as in one piston's 27mm, one piston's 30mm. It's a full billet caliper. Doesn't get a lot trickier, worth about £4 believe it or not. But we're not going to be using this one, fingers crossed, because these fork tubes, circa James Stewart 13, 14, he had these. So we're having to put a SFF single side 49mm fork together, almost from bits. So we've got there now. It's just one fork foot. My engineer Martin needs to do his magic to make sure the bolts and everything seal up properly. I'm hoping to get that in the next couple of weeks. If we get these forks built, believe me, they're uber trick. The front brake's trick, but wait until you see the 4-pot one we're going to use. So the head stays we made out of 6mm 6061 T6 aluminium. We machined them up, nice big hole in them for lightening and a little bit of flex. Everything's a bit of a soft fit at the moment because the cables, we have to bear in mind where the cables are going to go as we put it together. You don't want any nasty surprises. And then if you want to focus on these mounts here, they're the standard RMZ coil mounts. So we're hoping we can reuse those for the 2-stroke. And then reposition the CDI somewhere sensible. Not quite sure where that's going to go yet. The problem is, unless we start bolting these together like a proper soft fit, you have to just keep putting bits on, making sure they're going to line up, making sure they're going to work, because what's in my brain don't always work out. So it looks a bit previous putting the plastics on and checking the cable routines, but the last thing you need is like everything on, last bit giving it, oh, it don't work. So, and also it keeps me motivated because I can see it coming together. You want to flip it around because it's the other side that needs more work on the hoses. The rads on these AFs are always a bitch. We're going to use the standard RMZ radiators with the 250 2-stroke pipework. So the top balance pipe's fine, the RMZ and the RM share that. Apart from that, they all need cutting and welding. So this bottom pipe, which usually goes down to the cylinder head on a 4-stroke, now needs removing because at the moment that hits the engine. So we're going to have to come out the bottom of here and come a 90 degree and go over the top for a balance pipe. The top mount is fine, goes to the head as it should. The other side is only the balance pipe needs changing. So there is a bit of work, but if we use the standard RMZ radiators, then they fit the frame. Then we have to fit the RM pipe work to make sure that it cools as it should. So that's that handled. This side of the motor looks pretty cool. We've got one of our RC4 billet power valve covers, genuine work Suzuki magnesium ignition cover, work Suzuki gear shifter, the carb, and the next big thing's the airbox. So biggest job on these latest generation RMZ chassis is the airbox. The airbox on the earlier chassis, the 2012-13s we did before, air boot fitted straight in, no problem at all. This, not so much, because the funny angle the 4-stroke engine sits on, the airbox sits this way. Air boot sits that way. So we've had to trim the bottom of the airbox, and we will heat it up, bend it back, and reattach it to there. Then what you have to do is remove pretty much the whole front of the airbox to give you able to position the RM 2-stroke air boot into here. Now a lot of these people who do these conversions, especially on the new Honda 450s, they don't consider airbox volumes. Very, very important. So the distance between the back of the slide on the carburetor to the inside of the air filter is really important. Now on a 500 you can lose a little bit, there's so much power. You start doing this to 125s and 250s, it really doesn't like it. So we need to stick with the standard air boot and figure it out. So what we've done, we've gone for the CAD, cardboard aided design. So this will sit the front of the airbox pretty much like that. And we're going to make it at a 3mm plate, which you may think is a bit thick, but we need it not to flex too much. So we'll make it from 3, we'll cut it out, we'll blast it, then we'll get it anodized black so it looks kind of like it's supposed to be there. Use black rivets, black Sikaflex sealer, so it looks as much like it's supposed to be there as possible. So it's a big job. First off, cut the airbox, move it back, get the plate on, line up these bolts. This can't be under too much pressure because it all needs to line up, but the volume's massively important, like I say. On a 500, not so much. On one of these, really important. So I've got to mention the swing arm on these. They look really nice, the shape of them and the polish of them. These were really hard to do. So usual thing, first job, take all the metal work out of them, get them up to the anodizers, get the anodizing off. We've actually figured out how to do it ourselves, but it's really horrible. I'd rather let them do it. Give them a tenner, let them do it. So the swing arm then gets stripped from anodizing, comes back. We've dry blast the front cast section, then get to work on the extruded section. If there's any little marks or dings, Martin the welder fills them up and we grind them off. This was just really horrible. There's no flat surfaces. Everything's radius. So that did our nutting a little bit, the swing arm. So you see here we've got factory axle blocks, factory axle, even the chain adjusters are factory because they got a little locator which goes into the axle block. Doesn't look a lot. I hated doing it, but it looks alright, it looks good now. So we've got a fair bit to do still. Priority has got to be the VMXdN Foxhill and Farleigh Vets bikes. They're all together now. We've got a few bits and pieces to do. We'll show you that in the next video. If they all start up and run up good, we'll put them through some heat cycles. We've got to go test them with a couple of guys. We've already been out testing with Tommy on his bike. He's happy. Now it's just a matter of building it. The Yamahas are somewhere near. I'll show you those. If they all go together fine in the next week, 10 days, then we can drop back on this. If this is at Foxhill, you know, everything's gone well. Martin, the engineer's done his magic with the fork feet, and I've had a bit of time to mess with these. So fingers crossed the bikes will be there on display, August bank holiday. Here's the new event shirt with Chico on them. And we're going to be there, hopefully, with this on display. Nobody's going to ride it because before we get all the comments, oh, it's too new. Yeah, we know that. But it's just going to be a 2-stroke on display. And it's going to look full works, stock graphics. I'm not going to change standard. I think that looks really cool. That's pretty much how the bikes used to look when we used to go out testing because our team graphics weren't made as yet. So the bikes had all the works trickery just with stock plastic on. And I think they look mega. So that's what we'll be doing. It won't look that crazy cool until you get close to it, and then you realise how much we've done and how tricky it is. We might get somebody to do a parade lap on it if it's a runner. So come and see us there. Like and subscribe, apparently, all that stuff. August bank holiday, VMXdN Foxhill. 2 weeks later, middle of September, September 13th or 14th, Farleigh. Proper 2-stroke events, proper thing. Don't be confused with the bandwagon people.